My monster-in-laws demanded we give them our spare room. Then the cops came. My wife Jenna and I were eating dinner when someone pounded on the front door so hard the frame shook. I opened it and her parents were standing there with bags piled all over our porch. Carl pushed past me before I could say anything and said, "We're moving in." I asked what he was talking about and he said they lost their apartment and needed our spare room. He wasn't asking me. He was telling me what was happening in my own house. Jenna looked just as blindsided as I was, but Donna was already carrying boxes inside like it was settled. I pulled Jenna into the kitchen and asked if she knew about any of this, but she shook her head and I could see the fear in her eyes. Then Carl walked over and stood so close I could smell the cigarettes on his breath. He said, "Family doesn't turn away family. You got a problem with that?" The way he said it didn't sound like a question. It sounded like a warning. Jenna grabbed my arm and begged me to just let them stay for a little while. So I gave in because I didn't know what else to do. Carl smiled and patted my shoulder hard. He said, "Smart man, we're going to be real close now." Something felt off from the start. Carl would lock himself in that room whispering into his phone, and Donna would disappear for hours without explaining. Then my neighbor told me people had been stopping by the house while we were at work. I asked Carl about it and he just said, "Friends from church. We don't go to church." I came home early when I knew they would be out and went straight to the spare room. The first thing I noticed was this sharp chemical odor that made my eyes water. The bed had been shoved away from the wall, so I got on my knees and looked underneath. There was a lockbox hidden in the corner. My whole body was tense as I pulled it out and broke the cheap lock with a screwdriver. When I opened it, my heart stopped. Cash wrapped in rubber bands, phones I had never seen, a small scale with white residue, baggies with some empty and some full. I suddenly realized what kind of people I had let into my home. I took photos of everything and put the box back with my hands trembling. I needed to tell Jenna, but when she got home, Donna was already sitting next to her on the couch with her arm around her. Jenna wouldn't even look at me. Donna said, "Jenna has something to ask you." Jenna asked in this tiny voice, "Did you go through my parents' room?" My heart sank. Donna had gotten to her first and turned her against me. I told Jenna yes, but I had a good reason and she just shook her head. She said, "I can't believe you would do that." She started walking toward our bedroom and I felt like I was losing everything. I had proof on my phone, but my own wife wouldn't even hear me out. I grabbed her arm and said, "Just look at my phone. 10 seconds, please." She pulled her arm away and kept walking. I followed her and said, "Your parents are running an operation out of our house. I have pictures." She stopped, but didn't turn around. I could see her shoulders shaking. She finally turned and her eyes were filled with tears. She said, "Show me." I held up the screen and watched her face change as she scrolled through every picture. Her hands started trembling. She looked up at me and asked, "Is this real?" I nodded and she went straight for the spare room. I followed right behind her. Jenna pulls the box out and opens it and she's just staring at the cash and the baggies with her hands trembling. Then Carl appears in the doorway, blocking our only way out. His face goes dark when he sees what she's holding. He says, "You shouldn't have looked." Jenna's voice cracks. She asks, "Why did you really lose the apartment?" Carl takes a step toward us. He says, "Too many eyes over there. Your neighborhood is quieter." I feel my whole body go cold because they didn't lose anything. They chose us on purpose. Jenna asks, "Did you use us this whole time?" Donna appears behind Carl and rolls her eyes at her own daughter. She says, "Don't be dramatic. We would have cut you in eventually." Jenna drops the box. She says, "Get out of my house." Carl laughs in her face and takes another step closer. He says, "This is still my daughter's house too." I step between him and Jenna. I say, "It's in my name only. Leave now or I'm calling the police." Carl stares at me for a long moment. Then Donna grabs his arm looking panicked and they finally leave. We stood there in silence until Jenna noticed something under the dresser. She pulled out another box, then another from the closet. There were 5 more hidden around the room. I dialed 911 before Carl even made it off our street. Red and blue lights lit up our living room an hour later. Jenna squeezed my hand as we watched them walk Carl out in handcuffs. He looked back at me and I just smiled and waved.